A very good morning, dear students. So, welcome to yet another session of film studies. And again, we are back to where we had stopped in the last class. A quote by Martin Scorsese, open quote: cinema is a matter of what is in the frame and what is out, unquote. So, when it comes to movies, frame is a vital tool employed by filmmakers. With regard to films, writing stimulates us intellectually. Music can make us feel frightened or sometimes euphoric, but ultimately it is a frame through which we experience the sensations. Now the question is the frame truly all that there is in a movie, or should the audience read between the frames in order to understand it well or to get the full experience? It is, we know that a film is a series of moving pictures, and it is the cumulative effects of thousands of pictures or thousands of frames that give the audience the desired effect. But how much of the story can be presented through the frame? That is a question that comes in through this particular quote by Martin Scorsese. Cinema is a matter of what is in the frame at the same time what is out. For example, movies like Goda or movies like Duncan, they can be fully understood only if a person really knows the patriarchal setup in a country like India, where women had to battle stereotypes in order to follow their passions and become successful. So, a mere view of the world that is captured in the frame cannot be termed as film. Each film discusses a certain subject for a particular reason, and the filmmakers' use of the signs and symbols through which they communicate to the spectators. They try to achieve a desired effect, and this desired effect is obtained through certain influences and certain conditions. And that is where what Scorsese says becomes relevant. A film unravels a story, a character, a place, or a way of life in such a way as to produce and convey certain meanings. And the famous English critic novelist John Berger uh, called this as a way of seeing these elements in our life. Film has achieved the status of a sophisticated art, one of the most prominent art form of the present century that has the power to politically and psychologically influence the spectators. So, film is not just a matter of what is in the frame, though frame is a vital part, it is also what is outside the frame. Now, these three terms are also again quite important: uh, film, cinema, and movie. And these three are interrelated terms which we use quite interchangeably. Sometimes we say, I watched a cinema, or there was a movie which I liked, there is this beautiful film. So, without knowing the actual difference, we use these three different terms. They are interrelated. Um, James Monaco, in his celebrated book, How to Read a Film, describes these three interrelated terms. The first one, film, according to him, is the aspect of the art that concerns its relationship with the world around it. How the world in which we live is projected through the medium of camera. How the world is shaped by it. That is actually meant by the term film. The the two-way relationship between film and the world. That is the highlight of using the term film. And the film is usually the general term that we use with very few connotations. So that is regarding the first word, film. How the world is projected through the camera. It highlights the relationship between the world, the film world, and the real world, the real and the real. Now, when it comes to cinema, the cinematic aspect deals with the aesthetics and the internal structure. of this particular art form because when we talk about film history, there are different genres, approaches to the making of motion pictures. So the entire aesthetics, internal structure, history, genres, approaches, all these elements come together, or all these aspects are there when we use the word cinema. The focus is on the aesthetics. Then comes movies. Movie is usually seen as a quite a fashion, a stylized modern usage of film, and it is usually used because movie provides a label for the function of film as an economic commodity. The economic aspect of film, which gives importance to its infrastructure, its production, distribution, reception. That is the connotation of the word movie. So, as I said in the beginning, these three are closely related and we often use it interchangeably. So, one man's film is another man's cinema, or yet another person's movie. This is something that is said in your text, which I just got. Now, moving on to the next part of it, film as the hybrid nature of films. Film we know is a multi-dimensional art form which combines moving images, sound, music, text, and all these existing form and structure of film has been shaped through a continuous process of replication. Replication is something that we find in film, a wide variety of art forms like the narrative, the environmental, pictorial, musical, dramatical, all these can influence cinema as an art form. And cinema has borrowed considerably from literature, painting, sculpture, theatre, scripting, architecture, photography, history, culture, mythology, religion, folklore. So cinema is a kind of art form that has borrowed from all the other existing art forms. And there are again some elements that we find common to literature and drama, or sometimes between literature and fiction, like plot, time, setting, characters, point of view. All these are common to literature and drama. And talking about the narrative of a film, the narrative of a film is actually the twisted pair of the plot and story. Uh, and it is because of this narrative, a film is more close to fiction. Fiction has a story, it has got a plot, it has got events. All these elements we have in cinema too. And all the events that are presented to the spectators that form the story. And when the events are arranged in a particular sequence, it becomes the plot. And a narrative film, we have already discussed narrative film in the last class. A narrative film attempts to tell stories focused on characters, maintains a logical connection between the events, and usually narrative films have got an objective narrative style, and there'll be a proper beginning, middle, and an end. Whereas non-narrative films, they avoid telling stories. And non-narrative films are experimental films, or sometimes even documentary films also come under this particular category. And this is a part that we have already discussed in the last class while discussing the classification of films based on function. We discuss narrative films, documentaries, and experimental films. The same was here, the classification into narrative and non-narrative films. Now the characters. So the treatment of characters in a film is almost similar to that of a novel. The development of the film and a novel concentrates on what happens to the character. So characterization is very very important in both film as in fiction. Sorry, and in fiction. And the third element is that of point of view, uh, something that film shares with the other literary and visual arts. So point of view is from three different perspectives: from that of camera, from that of narrative, and the last is multiple points of view. So the camera offers a particular point of view towards the action or the subject in the film, and the narrative also conveys another point of view. We have the first person narrative, second person narrative. We are quite familiar with that. And even though movies usually try to maintain an objective point of view, it is not actually limited to a single person's perspective, because there are many movies that shows this point of view from different characters. A recent film like Kundiramayanam. Kundiramayanam begins with an objective kind of a narration, but towards the end, when it comes towards the climax, it becomes a narration to the part of, or it includes the narration of the character played by Biju Menon too. So there are multiple points of view also there in films. So now, apart from all these similarities, the film always overpowers fiction, especially novel, because of its visual possibilities. And the roots of film can be traced back to stage drama, and there are many similarities between drama and films. Both combines sound, dialogue, and image on the screen. And though the theatre performance is a live one, there are many theatre performances which are recorded too. And there is one particular thing about films, that films can manipulate shots in different ways. The audience but watches the performance in drama, whereas filmmaker makes the audience see the film projected onto a screen. That is the only difference. But as I said, there are also again many dramas that are already recorded. Then, regarding the music potential of the film, also has been greatly exploited by filmmakers. Earlier, we had only silent film, but later, silent films were again performed with live background and supporting music. Now, there is this maximum exploitation of sound, this musical potential in the films. So, apart from film's dependence on many other art forms. Film maintains hybrid themes as well as subjects too. So uh, as we have already discussed, politics, religion, folklore, literature, history, all these become subjects in film. And the purpose of production of the films also adds to the hybridity of the medium. Different artists, different personalities working behind the camera in the production stage, in the post production stage, all these in a way contribute to the hybridity of films. Now, that is a general introduction about film as an art form. I think we have discussed almost all the important elements that are needed as an introduction. Now, moving on to the next topic, that is film history, or the very beginning of cinema, how it all began. So, the history of cinema has passed through different stages of aesthetic and technological advancements. And uh, there were several toys and machines for optical entertainment based on the visual phenomenon called persistence of vision. Persistence of vision is a phenomenon that we are familiar with. It is a phenomenon of the eye by which an after image is thought to persist for approximately 1/25th a second on the retina. Or, in other words, it is the ability of the eye to retain the impression of an image for a short time after the image has disappeared. We are quite familiar with this. As kids, we used to do this, and there are many, many videos and images there in YouTube and in Google, which you can you know see. And there is this one particular link I have given here, which explains this particular phenomenon, persistence of vision, in a very detailed manner. So I'll request you all to go through this particular link and watch that video, which is quite interesting, and that explains how this particular phenomenon, persistence of vision, works in films. So, other than persistence of vision, film also, is indebted to the art of photography and also to toy makers, because the toy makers, they use this theory of persistence of vision to create handheld versions, and that way the basis of film development. So that explains films indebtedness to toy makers and to the art of photography. Both use the phenomenon persistence of vision, the ability of our eye to retain the impression of an image for a short time even after the image has disappeared. Now, this is a little bit about history. The three devices given here, the pictures of the three devices, beginning with thaumatrope, phenakistoscope, and zoetrope. These were early forms of entertainment, the animation form of entertainment. And thaumatrope was a popular child's toy during the early 19th century. Thaumatrope was the first thing. This is something that you're familiar with. If you draw the picture of a bird on one side and a cage on the other side, and if you keep rotating it, then we'll get the feel that the bird is in. I mean, the bird is inside the cage. If you click onto the link that is given earlier, this is explained in this particular video. So Thaumatrope was a child's toy during the early 19th century, followed by Phenakistoscope and then by Zoetrope. And these are early examples of such toys which made use of the crude form of animation for entertainment. These are all images. If you look at the pictures, if you look at all the devices here, these are all images, same images. And once you rotate the device or you view it from a particular distance, you feel that all these images are moving. You can try this at home. Now, this is regarding still photography. Still photography was invented by Louis Jacques Mande Daguerre in 1939, and this is the picture of daguerreotype. That was the name given to the device that he developed to take still photography, where he used silver copper plates. So this daguerreotype sorry, enabled the simulation of live action, but it could not be recorded simultaneously. Uh, Simultaneous photography was not possible using daguerreotype. And the below given are two pictures that were taken during um, daguerreotype. A baby, the first picture, and second is that of a picture of a city. I don't exactly remember. I guess it was Paris or London. Then comes Edward Muybridge, the Anglo-American photographer. He is the first man in history to record continuous live action, and this continuous live action taken by Muybridge is known as series photography. And he did this series photography using multiple still cameras, but he was successful in filming this with the help of a special kind of magic lantern, which is called as zoom praxiscope. This is very, very significant. So, we have seen the early forms of entertainment and how still photography was developed in 1939, with which still photographs could be taken, and then it moved to series photography, where live action could be recorded. It was done by Edward Muybridge using this magic lantern called Zoom Praxiscope. And a picture of the live action that was taken using multiple cameras is given here. I'm sorry. Now, Zoopraxiscope of Muybridge and he was together hired by Leland Stanford, a former Californian governor and a wealthy businessman. And he recorded live action continuously for the first time in history with the help of a series of 12 or more cameras. Just imagine placing 12 different cameras together and then taking the picture of a live action. Again, the YouTube link is given there. You can click onto that and watch the video of this first live action recorded in history. Now, the next device is chronophotographic gun, uh, which is a gun, a camera in the shape of a gun with a single camera capable of taking consecutive pictures of live action. That is significant. It is only a single camera device taking consecutive pictures and it has used paper roll films instead of silver copper plates. Here, Daguerre used silver copper plates and Etienne Jules Barre in his chronophotographic gun he replaced that with paper roll films and he used to take series of pictures of birds in flight. So this uh, chronophotographic gun of uh, Jules Verne replaced Muybridge's multiple camera. But he never tried to project the captured images, but he introduced the paper roll film as a substitute to the photographic glass plate, which were used earlier. And these are some of the major developments that happened after that. Um, First one is the introduction of celluloid paper film by Hannibal Godwin in 1887. He first used the celluloid roll. He was the first person to use this celluloid paper roll film. Then the George Eastman started mass production and marketing of celluloid paper film in 1889 and he first brought the first ever patent infringement suit in film history too. Then comes Thomas Alva Edison. Edison was actually searching for a visual accompaniment for his phonograph. We are familiar with Edison's phonograph. So he was looking for a visual accompaniment for this phonograph and he assigned that particular duty to a laboratory assistant, William Kennedy Laurie Dixon. So Dixon was asked to develop a motion picture camera for the purpose. He designed the first true motion picture camera for the Edison Laboratories in West Orange, New Jersey by synthesizing Muybridge's, Barry's, and Eastman celluloid stock. And this particular apparatus but allowed only one person to watch the short films by you know peeping through a small hole. So these are the people behind it: Thomas Alva Edison and his assistant Dixon, who designed this kinetograph. The pictures given are the first one is Edison's phonograph, and the below picture is that of kinetograph. So this is a kinetograph, the first motion picture camera, but only one person could view films at a time through a small hole. So Edison patented this invention under the name kinetograph, and the meaning of the word kinetograph in Greek is motion writer. So this is considered as the first motion picture camera invented, which was actually invented as an accessory to the phonograph. Now, there are two important parts for kinetograph. First one is a stop motion device which allowed the regular motion of the film strip through the camera, and then a perforated celluloid film which is approximately 1 inch wide. സോ ഇത് രണ്ടെണ്ണമാണ് കൈനറ്റോഗ്രാഫിൻ്റെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് പാർട്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഒരു സ്റ്റോപ്പ് മോഷൻ ഡിവൈസ് ഉണ്ട്, അതാണ് റെഗുലർ മോഷൻ, ആ ഫിലിമിൻ്റെ റെഗുലർ മോഷന് അലോ ചെയ്തിരുന്ന ഒരു സ്റ്റോപ്പ് മോഷൻ ഡിവൈസും അതുപോലെ ഒരു സെല്ലുലോയിഡ് ഫിലിം സ്ട്രിപ്പ്. ഈ സെല്ലുലോയിഡ് ഫിലിം സ്ട്രിപ്പ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് 1 inch wide ആയിരുന്നു, 35 mm. These two were the most important parts of this kinematograph, and the only drawback was, as I said, only a single person could watch pictures at a time through the magnifying lens of a box. മുകളിലുള്ള ഒരു ചെറിയ ബോക്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഹോളിൽ കൂടെ ഒരാൾക്ക് മാത്രമേ ഒരു സമയത്ത് അതിനകത്ത് ആ ക്യാമറ മൂവ്മെൻറ്റും ആ ഫിലിമും കാണാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കില്ല. And these films that were shown using the kinematographs were known as kinetophones. Kinetophones എന്നാണ് ഈ ഇതിലൂടെ കാണിച്ചിരുന്ന ഫിലിംസിനെ പറയുക. Now, these attempts of Laurie Dixon to synchronize the sound and image did not actually succeed. So in 1893, Edison was granted patent for kinetograph, and which he marketed through several companies. And the Edison Manufacturing Company established its own kinetograph studio in New Jersey, and the first motion picture studio named Black Maria was constructed by Dixon in 1893. That is important. The first motion picture studio, the first motion picture studio by the Edison Manufacturing Company, by Dixon, Black Maria in 1893. And these motion pictures were shown through the kinetograph, but it could not be used for narrative purpose. And for this kinetograph, brief performances were recorded, and sometimes it is performances of dancers or acrobats or some slapstick comedy. And a few such notable kinetophones were Chinese laundry, Gaiti girls dancing, trained barbers, blacksmith scene, dentist scene, and Highland dance. Almost all these are available in YouTube. The short kinetophones are there in YouTube. So those who wish to watch it can just view this in YouTube. Now, attempts have been made by people across the world to synchronize this image and sound. Um, Many in Europe and America attempted to design a device to perfect this projection of series of photographs. The English inventor William Fries Green, then a French scientist named Louis M. Augustin Leibniz are some of the names worth mentioning in this context. And then in France again, the Lumiere brothers, they operated a factory. They designed the cinematograph, and uh, the cinematograph, the device that was designed by the Lumiere brothers. This is it. I hope you're familiar with Lumiere brothers. So this is the device Lumiere brothers invented, the cinematograph. This is the inside of it. These are a few pictures taken by, not just pictures actually, they are short videos taken by the Lumiere brothers using their cinematograph. There is this picture of the workers leaving the Lumiere factory, that is considered as the world's first moving picture, which the Lumiere brothers projected to a private audience. This first one, workers leaving the Lumiere factory. അവരത് ചെറിയൊരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഓഡിയൻസിന് മുന്നിൽ they projected this particular video they have taken. Then there is this arrival of train at a station, baby's lunch. This is a record of one of the Lumiere brothers feeding his infant daughters. Then comes the sprinkler sprinkled. These are some of the movies or the short films that they exhibited before a group of audience. And with this, the establishment of cinema as an industry actually began. So keep that in mind. Lumiere brothers, with their cinematograph, they actually established cinema as an industry because they projected these short films they have taken before a group of audience in Paris. Yeah. Now, in Germany, the Sklansnovsky brothers, then Max and Emil, these brothers, they developed a projector for celluloid film strips called the Bioscope, or two different spellings are there, SKOP and SCOP, and they projected some of their films in a public performance, and there is another person also, Robert W. Paul, a manufacturer of scientific instruments, who patented the theatrograph, and finally projection reached England in 1896. Now in Atlanta, Georgia, Francis Jenkins and Thomas Erdmann, they projected short movie pictures with an electrically powered machine, with an advanced kind of stop motion mechanism. And then these people, they used a projecting machine devised by the Latham family, known as the Latham loop. This device with two loops above and below the projection lines allow the projection of longer films without film breakage. So ഈ Latham loop എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് quite significant ആണ്. കാര്യം ലൂമിയ ബ്രദേഴ്സ് കാണിച്ചതും ഷോർട്ട് ഫിലിംസ് ആയിരുന്നു. ഷോർട്ട് ഫിലിംസ് ലെസ് ദാൻ എ മിനിറ്റ്, only a few seconds അത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ. അപ്പോൾ അതിനുശേഷം ലതം ലൂപ്പ് വരുമ്പോഴാണ് അതിൻ്റെ ലെങ്ത് ഓഫ് ഫിലിം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ഒന്ന് വലിയതാക്കാനായിട്ട് സഹായിച്ചത്. ദീസ് particular device called Latham loop allowed the projection of longer films without film breakage. Um, then again, Edison was quite impressed with this particular machine called the Latham loop, and he entered into an agreement with the manufacturer. And he named this machine, with which he developed using Latham loop, as Edison's Vitascope, and he performed its first public exhibition in 1896 in New York City, and this was considered Edison's greatest marvel, where he exhibited some crude living pictures which greatly satisfied the public. A few pictures, a few videos that were shown were that of sea waves, butterfly dance, the barber shop, a boxing bout, skirt dance, the bar room, were some of the short videos that were exhibited. And they were rather a series of animated photographs which had no connection and meaning from one scene to other. Anyhow, towards the end of the 19th century, almost all technological requirements needed for recording and projection were discovered. The Latham device, it extended the length of the film to 16 minutes. That was a great leap actually. And with this came continuous narratives uh, around the turn of the century. That is towards the end of the 19th century. Its continuous narratives emerged. This is about the history of cinema. Now it is going to be the narrative films, the evolution of narrative films. The illusion, the illusion potential of living pictures was actually identified by George Miles, who was a professional magician. And Miles, while he was trying to capture the image of an omnibus emerging from a tunnel, accidentally recognized the possibilities of manipulating real time and space. This is very, very significant. It is a milestone in the history of films. The first person who identified or who realized the possibility of manipulating time and space. And he was the first narrative artist to produce many delightful narrative films. He founded the Star Film Company in 1896 and produced about 500 films between the years 1897 and 1930. Uh, uh, of all the films that he produced, a few are to be mentioned, like The Cabinet of Mephistopheles, Cinderella, The Man with the India Rubber Head, The Palace of the Arabian Nights, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Conquest of the Pole are some of the titles or some of the narrative films that Miles produced by realizing the possibility of manipulating time and space. And of the narrative films that he uh, produced, one deserves special mention, and that is A Trip to the Moon. I've already mentioned this particular title in the last class. I don't know whether you remember or not. While discussing narrative films, A Trip to the Moon is considered as the first narrative film. This is an adapted version of Jules Verne's novel of the same title, and this was composed as 30 separate scenes, which he called tableau, which were photographed from the same angle and arranged in a chronological sequence. ഇത് 30 ഡിഫറെൻറ്റ് സീൻസ് ആണ് ഈ ഒരു സിനിമയിൽ നടക്കുന്നത്. ഒരേ ആംഗിളിൽ നിന്ന് ഫോട്ടോ എടുത്തിട്ട് chronological sequence arrange ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. And the early cinema was there's a series of displays providing spectatorial pleasure. It was a kind of performative spectacles. The early cinema gave more importance to uh, spectatorial pleasure. So it served the purpose of presenting and showing rather than representing an narrative. So the narrative potential of the cinema was discovered by Miles through the editing of this. And Charlie Chaplin called Miles as uh, the alchemist of light. And again, another famous artist D.W. Griffith remarked that he owed everything to Miles. Only because of Miles that we have realized we or those filmmakers or those people associated with film have realized the possibility of manipulating time and space and the possibility of narrative films. So I've given a link of the movie Trip to the Moon here. It is a short movie of 12 to 13 minutes. Those who are interested, not just those who are interested, I wish everyone should watch this particular movie. I'm going to give this as an assignment. Not just this particular one. All the links given in this particular video should be seen by you all people, because I'll be meeting you all very soon and we'll have a discussion. So make sure that you watch the links that I have shared with you in this particular video. Uh, yeah. So with that, I think we'll wind up today's session. Thank you.